a couple more moments to allow everybody to join. Okay, great. Well, let's get started. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar with InfoTrack and Groundsure, where we're going to explore the benefits available through Property Report and learn how the data taken from Avista is used within it. My name is Faye Stenning and I'm a marketing manager here at InfoTrack. I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Crawshaw, who's a senior account manager at Groundsure, and Tom Kerwin, who's head of account management at InfoTrack. They'll both be taking you through this session today. So before we begin the webinar, I'd just like to draw your attention, please, to the Q&A tab, which is located at the bottom of your screen. We will be running a Q&A at the end of this session, so please type in any questions that you might have for either Andy or Tom, along with your name, into the Q&A box. That way, if we run out of time or if your question requires further clarification, we can extract your information and follow up with you directly after the webinar. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Andy. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you, Faye. And yeah, as I said, what I'll do is I'll run through our Avista report, and obviously afterwards Tom will show you how it seamlessly passes over into the property report and all the bits that it covers. So you've got an idea of exactly what we're offering, and also how it just helps you deal with saving some time and going against any sort of compliance issues that you might have from an environmental perspective. But obviously we've seen over the last couple of years just exactly how busy the conveyancing market has been. So what we've tried to do with the Avista report is just bring out a single environmental solution, and just to try and help speed up the process and make everybody's lives easier. And we understand that anyone dealing with any land or property transactions know that it can be a complete minefield when it comes to searches. So that's why we've developed the Avista report, which will address all of your due diligence requirements. And that is, when putting this report together, that's been our main focus. It was to ensure that there's maximum compliance for conveyancers, and that's especially against the Law Society practice notes, but also against the Council of Mortgage Lenders handbook as well. So we ensure compliance with many risks commonly found in UK property transactions, and that covers everything you can see on the slide, but contaminated land, flood, mineral extraction and ground stability, which is something that is becoming more prominent an issue in the UK at the moment. A radon check, so you don't have to get a separate one as well. There's also coal mining, Cheshire brine and railways, which I'll go through in a bit more detail in a second. But we have this approach for identifying and reporting on risk for solicitors, but more importantly for their clients in what is possibly the biggest financial outlay that they'll make in their lives. And it has resulted in Groundsure just becoming a leading environmental provider of environmental searches to the residential property market. So the Groundsure Avista covers 10 searches in one product. It's fully compliant with the Law Society practice note on contaminated land, and it will cover contaminated land liability. We use our historical mapping database to look at past land use, and on that database is also waste and landfill sites. We'll also look at current and recent industrial use. It's also fully compliant with the Law Society practice note on flood. So river and coastal flooding, groundwater and surface water flooding are all covered. It also looks at flood defences and management schemes, as well as historic flood events. We often get asked about historic flood events, and basically anything that has been registered with the Environment Agency will be covered in our report. So if it hasn't been registered with them, we obviously won't know about it, but if it has, we will be able to cover it within the report. We've also got a full Law Society approved Con 29M that's included in the report that covers all the relevant 11 questions that are asked, as well as the Council of Mortgage Lenders handbook compliant information on non-coal mining. So things like limestone, chalk, clay, any sort of mining that's gone on in the UK. And it also looks at ground stability as well, looking at basically what sort of soils are in the ground and any sort of ground movement that's happened there previously. We have our full energy and transportation information that's included in the report. That will cover things like oil and gas extraction, wind and solar farms, so not just existing, but proposed as well. And then it looks at HS2 lines, the Crossrail 1 and Crossrail 2, if you're dealing with properties in London, We also look at underground lines, not just in London, but it also looks at the Merseyrail. It looks at the Metro link up in Newcastle, and also the Glasgow lines as well. And it also covers all national rail lines, all national rail stations, and also historic and abandoned railways too. Within the report, as I mentioned, is a radon check. And we've also got all of our planning application data, which shows planning constraints, any major developments, any small developments, and also house extensions too. And we're also the only provider of a Cheshire Salt search. So we have the contract from the Cheshire Brine Compensation Board, and we include that as standard within this report where it's applicable. So that's fully covered as well. So as I said, it's an all-in-one environmental report covering 10 searches in one product. And then just to give you an idea of how the report looks before it goes into the property report. So we've removed the overall professional opinion, and we now provide an opinion per the result category. We have got 3 new outcomes. So we have key results. These are the outcomes that require attention, and the lender should be notified where applicable. We've got informatives. So these are results that a home buyer would want to know about, but not necessarily anything that's going to hamper the issue of getting a mortgage or insurance on the property. We have informatives. We also have also searched, and this shows the list of data categories that we've also searched, obviously, but they have already passed our assessment, so you can understand that we have looked at them, but there's no issue there. And the front page is fully dynamic with the results positioned based on their outcome and subdivided by their significance. So we have key results at the top, informatives in the middle, and anything that's been searched that's not an issue below that. So it always means that anything that requires attention is at the top of the page, and it just creates the best possible communication and arrangement of outcomes for each property. So don't be alarmed that each Avista will be ordered slightly differently. This is just based on its findings, and as I said, anything that's an issue will be placed up at the top. We have the Groundsure IQ. This is our unique tool that combines in-depth data. It looks at algorithms, AI, and also the expert analysis from our database and our consultants here at Groundsure. And it analyzes over 110 million data points for every single report. We intelligently filter it, we assess it, and it's provided within this action alert, which also provides any next step strategies, whether that's whatever the outcome of the report. And it's designed with you guys, the conveyancers, in mind, because this alert improves the case management. So you know exactly how long you're going to have to spend on a report at a glance, so you can fit that in with the rest of the searches and the rest of the processes that you need to look at. And then we have this home buyer boilerplate at the bottom right-hand side of the report. So when we did our research for the Avista product, we did some quantitative surveys and we did some conveyancer focus groups. And what it came out was that this report is for the home buyer more than anybody else. So as such, each Avista will be supplied with a welcome to the neighbourhood boilerplate. And this provides a clear indicator for the home buyer that this product is for them to read and that their conveyancer has ordered the best search possible. And then what we've done is we've made the icons really clear as well on the left. So what it means is that it just improves the accuracy of the report. We use land registry title polygons for each report, just so that you know exactly what the boundary is associated with the land registry title. As I said, it's powered by that Groundsure IQ, so it's only the relevant aspects of the report are returned. If something isn't an issue, we don't fill the report with maps and data on that feature, because there's absolutely no point, because it's not a risk for the transaction that's going ahead. As I said, it can speed up the management of cases, and it clarifies the risks just with simple next steps, which can aid your due diligence. And we've also made it be written in plain English, so the person actually buying the property can understand this report, and it means that they're not coming back to you guys to ask you more questions and get you tied up in issues that you don't want to be dealing with. So there's no need for any additional reports. As I said, it's got a full content in INM, our full geo risk report in it, and everything that needs to be covered. And it's also got an improved page flow as well. So the first page has the overall rating and the dashboard. Then the second page will be the next steps. And then we go through the summaries for each section. So you can understand what the risks are on the front page. And on the second page, understand what the next steps are for each of those risks that have been identified on the front page. And that is everything from me. Thanks for your time. I'll now pass you over to Tom.
Thanks very much, Andy. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen and just give it a second for it to load up. Excellent. So everybody should be able to see the InfoTrack home screen now. I'm going to run through over the next 10 to 15 minutes a brief demonstration of InfoTrack's award-winning property report solution. This allows you to quickly and compliantly report on the title, on searches, on the mortgage. But what I'll concentrate on today is the pre-population that you can receive from your searches, including the Groundsure product and the Avista report that Andy's just ran through for us there as well. If you would like a more in-depth demonstration or a training session on the report after this, please do reach out to your account manager. They will be more than happy to organise a session for you. So this is the InfoTrack home screen. Property report sits here, just under productivity. So I'll click on property report. And this is the setup. So we're going to set up a property report workspace. I will use my demonstration mode. But essentially, this will pull through the matter number. So if you are integrated with a case management system, the data will pre-populate from your case. So your matter number will pull through. The address will pull through either from the searches you've ordered with us or from your case management system as well. And then we'll ask you to select the tenure here. So you can see this covers all transaction types: freehold with new build, leasehold, new build, shared ownership and sublease, and also the option to report on unregistered land as well. So behind the scenes, there are around 55,000 words covering all the transaction types. The content that sits there meets the best practice standards of the Law Society, CQS, Land Registry, HMRC and lenders, importantly as well. So we do have a dedicated property report content team. You can trust them to take care of any rules or regulation changes, and the content will be tweaked as well. Underneath the title number we'll go in. Now, the first thing we'll do, we'll verify the address to make sure that that's correct. And we'll also, when I click generate in a second, the system will go to the Land Registry and it will purchase a copy of the register. We need that so we can populate key information like easements and covenants from the register straight into the report for you. So just as I'm about to show you the pre-population from Avista, we'll do the same with key information in the Land Registry register as well. Underneath here, you'll have your purchaser's name, so they will be on the front page of the report. And then just towards the bottom, before we go into the workspace, you'll have a list of the searches or indemnities or a draft SDLT that you've done on InfoTrack. We're able to read the information from the sources listed here and populate that into the report for you as well. So I'll go ahead and click generate, and this will take me into the property report workspace. So on the right-hand side, you'll have your branded reports. Your account manager can help with setting this up. So there's a couple of different design options, obviously your company and firm's logo, and the color theme throughout as well. So we can really bespoke it to the firm. On the left-hand side, we have the editing function. So the right is your sort of live draft. The left-hand side becomes the editing function for the report. We put alerts on any sections that require your attention. Of course, InfoTrack, we don't know everything about this property and this title for you to then report onto the client. So there'll always be that need for the conveyancer and their legal knowledge to come in and fill in the gaps, take out sections that aren't relevant, and really make this report property specific. So on the left, if I just show you some of the pre-population we get from the title. This first paragraph, I've not written this 5 minutes before this webinar. If I click on this go to source document, wherever we pull information from a source, so the title or your searches, for example, will always take you to the document and the location of where that information has come from. So you'll never have to sort of write that sentence out again. That will be populated for you. All of the content on the left-hand side as well, you can jump in, take out paragraphs that aren't relevant to the property, and add to the content that's already there as well. So I'll just minimize that. Just before we do get to the searches, I'll show you some of the further pre-population we get on the title. So we've got all of these subcategories. If I jump into rights benefiting the property, we can see here the list of easements pulled through from the register. And if I was to click on this little icon, it would take me to the register of where those easements have come from. The same with covenants. So if there were covenants found on the register, they would pull through into the property report for you as well. So you've got your first section to report on the title. We then give you a second section for inquiries of the seller, a third section for your reporting on searches, a fourth section for a mortgage report, and a fifth section for additional details, payments and disclaimers for you to wrap a report on title up. Just as we might get asked the question at the end, if this was a leasehold property, you would have a sixth section to simply report on the lease. So you would have your lease on the right-hand side, you would come in, upload your lease into the workspace, you'd have it visible on the screen, and you can easily report on that lease on the left-hand side as well. So let's have a look at some of the pre-population we've obtained from the searches ordered on InfoTrack. So if I come into the searches section and then into planning permission, we can see here there's some information on council tax banding. There's guidance on the planning entries found in the local authority search. Where we pull information in, we always ask the user to kind of resolve the alert. So in order to push that content into the report on the right-hand side, we put an alert on it for you. So you can either come in, you can add to the text that's there, or simply click save, and that will push that section into the report on the right-hand side as well. So you can see that alert's just disappeared. Just scrolling back up, if I come into building regulations, this section is done for you. You don't have to copy and paste information from a local search, or even sort of have a paper version on your desk and manually type this section out into the report. We can dynamically pull that information in for you. So you can see here the list of building records in the report. We'll do the same with any road adoption information. So we can see here the road in this local search is maintained at the public expense. So much of the information in the searches is going to save a hell of a lot of time when it comes to reporting. We'll do the same with the drainage and water search for you as well. And then let's have a look at the environmental. So I've ordered an Avista search on this property. If I look at this section, environmental, energy, transportation and mining overview, this will give the end purchaser some context as to the results that they are about to read. So some information in here about the environmental report that has been ordered. And then the results itself, if I go to this environmental section, we can see here the environmental search ordered returned a pass on contaminated land. And again, we've not had to type that out or copy and paste it from anywhere. If I click on the go to source document, it will bring up the Avista, which is stored in the appendices tab just there. And it will drop me down to the place on the environmental search where this information has come from. So I can see here, contaminated land, that's returned a pass. And of course, that's replicated on the left-hand side as well. The same for the flood risk. We can see here, moderate to high risk of flooding. So dynamically pulling that information into the property report for you as well. And like Andy said a couple of minutes ago, with the Avista search, it's covering everything from contaminated land to flood to ground stability to radon gas. You've got your Groundsure Con29M report in there as well. So it really does encompass everything you may possibly want to check environmentally on a property. So really this environmental section, which may have took so 10 minutes to manually report on will be done for you, all populating in from the search results. So just going a bit further down, you've got your transportation, your energy, planning applications. If I just jump back to the report on here, anywhere I click on the left-hand side as well will drop me to that relevant section within the report, so you can easily flick between the two. If it isn't the Avista that you're currently ordering, and you do order sort of a standard or a separate flood report, even though it is included in the Avista, I just want to point out we do have separate sections for the ancillary products. So if you did order a separate flood report from Groundsure, this separate flood section on the left will be populated for you as well. The same with the mining, the electricity, etc. too. Just before we wrap up, some users prefer to report in stages. Some prefer to sort of produce one large report on title. And this property report solution is completely flexible. So you can either produce one large report covering everything, or you can produce a broken down report and report in stages. So perhaps a title report to begin with, then come back in and report on the inquiries of the seller section, maybe a separate mortgage report later. And if that's the case, just use this workspace to remove, for example, the property details section, inquiries of the seller. We'll leave the searches in. I'll remove the mortgage for now, and then I'll remove the additional details, payments and disclaimers section from the back. I can then go to publish. This window will pop up, and I do have the ability here to rename my report. So if I click on that little pad and just rename that to searches or search report, the system at this point will draw your attention to any alerts within the report that you haven't resolved, and therefore there could be some missing information or a gap in the content. Of course, you don't want to be reporting to your client on something that you haven't resolved or potentially does have a gap in. So we'll draw your attention to those paragraphs here, and we'll strip them out for you if you go to publish this without resolving an alert on that paragraph. Towards the back as well, we give you the option to include all of your searches as the appendices to your actual search report. So here I'll produce my search report, and then I'll attach within the same file my local, my drainage and water, my Avista from Groundsure, and if I'm just reporting on searches, I may remove the register here as well. So I've clicked confirm. This will produce your PDF version. So you can see here, this is all branded. I've got my client's names, the property address on the front as well. We'll then automate a table of contents for you. So based on the sections that you've decided to include in this report, this will change. So you can see here, it's all about my searches. Then we go into the look and the feel of the report as well. So it's very clean, very professional, with standardized reporting across the firm as well for compliance purposes. If I just scroll through my actual search report, we'll also give you the option to include a branded glossary here, just explaining legal terms in layman's terms for the end purchaser as well. So this was a highly requested feature. And then towards the back, so you can easily send this to your client in as one document, we push the appendices into the report. So you can see here, we've got the local search, and then it will go through to the drainage and water and the environmental into one report there. So just before we wrap up, we then give you this property reports dashboard. This will house all drafted and all published versions of property reports. You can filter to mine. That will just show you the ones you've personally done yourself. So this is the one I've just done at the top. I might want to sort of jump back in, make a change, or perhaps even then sort of remove the searches section and produce a separate mortgage report. So you've got that workspace already created. You can come back in and make as many changes as you need as you're reporting. So I would just click on the top one. Your report will be visible on the right-hand side, and you can come in, edit the report, And that will take you straight back into the workspace. There's my searches report. I can make changes. I can publish a new version, or I could even add, say, like I say, a separate mortgage report or an additional details, payments and disclaimers section at the back. So in a nutshell, that's property report. So I'm going to hand back over to Faye for any Q&As. And yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Tom and Andy. That's great. We have had a couple of questions come through. By all means, if anybody else wants to submit any more, we do have time to take others. But let's start off. I have got a first question here for Andy, please. Does the Con29M aspect of the Avista include a mine entry interpretive report and details of past insurance claims?
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, it does. So as the same as our standalone Con29M, it fully includes a mine entry interpretive report, so you don't need to get a separate one. And yeah, it does. It will include any insurance claim that's been made with a 20-metre buffer around the property. So I think when you get one from the Coal Authority, it just includes ones for the property itself, but we put that 20-metre buffer in there as well. So yeah, it's fully inclusive within the report.
Fantastic, thank you. I've got a question for Tom now, please. We have InfoTrack integrated with our CMS. Will the report drop back to the CMS?
Thanks, Faye. Yes. So when I set that property report up, we got the data pulling through from the case management system to populate the setup. And just as you would expect with any other document or search that you've ordered via InfoTrack through the integration, the PDF will drop back into the case management system once it's been published.
Perfect. And another question for you as well, please, Tom. Can I edit the report after publishing a version?
Thanks, Faye. Yes, of course. So just as we saw there, you can edit the report as many times as you like. So you can publish a version, you can come back into your property report dashboard, and you can click on any report, come back in, edit, make changes, even produce a sort of a separate report once you're within that workspace. You can edit as many times as you like.
Great, thank you. And there's another one which I think feeds into a similar sort of question here. Is it possible to report in stages?
100%, yes. I think there's two popular ways of reporting. One is to produce a sort of large report on title encompassing everything. And the other option, which is also very popular, is to report in stages, perhaps on the title first, maybe searches later, separate mortgage report. We've listened to a lot of feedback over the last 12 months, and we've built that in to make it really, really easy to report in stages. Even with a release around about a month ago where you can actually rename the report as well. So you can call the first one title report, come back in, produce a search report, and rename it as you go through as well. So yeah, we've listened to that feedback. We understand a lot of users and firms like to report incrementally. So hopefully that demonstration towards the end showed you how quick and easy it is to do that as well.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Another question, this one I think is for you as well, Tom. We already have on file a copy of the land registry title supplied by the seller's solicitors. So why incur the expense of buying one?
Thank you, very good question. So there might be another question on the fee to use property report as well. So I'll cover that off as it kind of bundles into the same answer. The fee to use InfoTrack's property report solution is £9.90. Okay. However, if you have ordered a search pack on a matter with InfoTrack, a local, a drainage, and an environmental search, we actually provide property report to you at no cost on that specific matter. So if you're ordering searches with us, the fee to use property report will be £0. That fee also incorporates the land registry register that we go and purchase on your behalf as well. So we don't actually charge you for the land registry register. We need that in order to pre-populate that title section. So essentially, if you're ordering searches with us, there'll be no fee to use the property report solution, and there'll also be no additional fee to purchase that register either.
Perfect, thank you. I have another question, which you've pretty much just answered, sort of. What is the cost of the searches and the report? So you've covered the cost of the report. So perhaps if we could ask Andy for the cost of the searches, please.
Yeah, so the Avista report, we have an RRP on there of £110 plus VAT.
Okay, great. And one other question I've got, again for you, please, Andy. Do you need to buy a separate flood report when you buy an Avista report?
No, from our point of view, from our standalone flood report, there is absolutely nothing that's included in there that isn't included within the Avista report. What we might do is, in our recommendations section of a flood report, is we might recommend a manual flood assessment, because what we'll do is we will do a flood risk assessment on the whole boundary that's been plotted for the site. But say if it's a corner of a garden where the flood risk is an issue, but the building itself isn't targeted as that risk, we can do a consultation with some of the guys in the office, and they can write a caveat to that report to say, look, the building itself isn't a flood risk, but the gardens and the land associated with it might be a flood risk. There is a small fee involved in that, but if that's something that might help actually push through the purchase and especially sort out the insurance and the mortgage stability of the property, then that's something we can do. But from a flood report perspective, there's nothing in the standalone flood report that's not in the Avista.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. We don't have any other questions, so I think we're probably at the point where we need to wrap things up. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Groundsure and Andy in particular for your time today, and also to Tom for your insights into property report. I hope everybody has found this session informative and useful. If you do have any other questions about anything you've learned today, or any questions in relation to how Avista works alongside property report, you can either contact us using the details on your screen, or you can reach out to your account manager, who'll be more than able to assist you. This session is being recorded, and we will send you a copy so that you can refer back to it. So all that's left to say really is a big thank you for everybody for joining us today, and to Tom and for Andy for presenting. And I hope everybody has a lovely rest of their day. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Faye. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.